Here at the showcase, there's plenty to do. I've been wandering around. I've been to the mood room already this morning, of course, snuck in there to see what mood that I was in and how I could improve my mood. But now I found myself in what appears to be a mobile phone shop. Of course, it isn't a mobile phone shop. It's something that Lush are very concerned about. And here to tell me more about the whole thing is Adam Goswell.
Morning.
Adam, we met before.
We did.
Before we get started, Lush mobile phones, the digital platform, what's the connection?
So what we're talking about here, Chris, is really ethical electronics, and we're telling it through the lens of a mobile phone, because that's a device that we probably all have. So a bit like the plastic straw with plastics, we're relating it back to something everyone actually has. So what we've got kind of here is a parody of a mobile phone shop.
Yeah.
So typically you'll walk into a high street phone shop and you'll be sold a world of glitzy phones with great features and cameras and all that kind of stuff. Talk about all the minutes and data you might get. But what we're doing is rather talk about those amazing features. We're saying what the environmental and social impact is about every time you upgrade or buy another phone.
And this is what's on all your screens over here?
Yes, so we've got all these kind of like, if you're advertising the latest phone deal, we're kind of mixing that with some really hard facts about electronic waste, the impact on the environment, where these metals and minerals are coming from, which the phone's packed full of, and where they inevitably end up on e-waste or landfill sites.
Because we are in an age of upgrade, aren't we?
We are,
One of the
yes.
most disappointing aspects of our life is that we no longer continue to use things beyond their fashionability.
Absolutely.
And then we also, we don't fix things anymore. We just replace
Absolutely.
rather than repair.
Yeah.
So this is very much what this is all about.
It is. I think the average life cycle of a mobile phone is 18 months, and
Is
then
it?
everyone upgrades. And I think
I must be a bit mean
Yeah,
then.
no,
Can I
yeah.
hang on to mine a bit longer?
which is good, which is what you should do. I mean, what we're kind of saying, the most ethical phone is the one you've got in your pocket right now.
Right.
So the longer you can delay buying one, or you get the most longevity out of it, the better.
Okay.
Rather than this constant marketing cycle we're locked into of upgrade and replenish.
Right.
Or if there's a tiny little scratch to throw the whole thing away and get another one.
Okay, we haven't got time to go through everything. Give me
Yeah.
a few of the horrific highlights when it comes to, the
Yeah.
real cost then of mobile phones.
I think it's about 1.5 billion phones a year are brought into life. And
Billion?
Billion, yes. So of each of those phones, you're bringing in all sorts of hazardous metals and minerals, which are quite rare. And in some cases, they're being mined in conditions that you wouldn't find acceptable.
Okay, so you've got the human issue
Yep.
of labour.
Yep.
You've also got the environmental issue because
Absolutely.
mining very often isn't well managed in terms of the environment.
Absolutely.
And pollution, damage to habitat, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Then you've got the production process, I guess, as well.
And in some cases, of course, the factory workers are not treated well, or they're working horrendous hours.
Okay.
Their working conditions aren't favourable, so that can happen.
And again, you've got chemicals that are involved in that, which may
Absolutely.
not be properly managed. So again, there's
Yes.
a second, by this stage, probably third or fourth opportunity for pollution.
Absolutely.
And then you've generally got the consumption thing,
Yeah.
which is whatever you're doing, you're using energy throughout all of these processes,
Absolutely, yeah.
which is contributing to the exhaustion of the world's resources,
So there's
climate
carbon,
change,
yeah, all of it, yeah.
everything else.
So, of course, we're talking about phones here, but this is any kind of electronics.
Yeah.
If you think about all the things that we're using, kettles, microwaves, TVs, all of those things are having the same impact.
Do you know what? When we were kids, the TV would break down and we would ring a TV repairman and he would come round,
Absolutely.
take the back off, it would all smell a bit funny and he'd tinker around. The smell of solder would permeate through the house and he would leave having repaired our TV. That doesn't happen, does it?
It doesn't happen, no. We just throw it away because they're quite cheap and disposable, and generally you can't get inside these things anymore because they make it quite hard to take the thing apart.
Yeah.
So we've got a culture of non-replenishing or fixing. We're constantly adding new.
Financially cheap,
Yeah.
but they're not actually environmentally cheap
No.
and ethically cheap. That's the
Absolutely.
thing. Well, look, let's move on through here.
Yep.
What happens then when we decide to upgrade? Because surely the phone that we dispose of does have some value, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So in some cases, electronics end up on landfill sites or e-waste sites.
As this is a replica of
Yes.
an e-waste site, isn't
Absolutely. So what we've got here are cages full of the kind of electronics you're going to be throwing away and putting into landfill or electronic waste sites. Thankfully, all of the electronics and tech you can see has come from a supplier that Lush actually uses, where we send our e-waste.
Yeah.
And they will break that down into its components, or if it's usable, they'll actually resell it on.
Right.
So it's always got a second life.
Yeah.
If you can harvest the copper, gold, silver, all of the things in there and reuse it, put it back into the system, then that's great.
I was going to say, I can't imagine that there aren't things here which aren't actually valuable in terms of almost sort of e-scrap.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's been estimated by the UN there's $55 billion worth of precious metals locked up in e-waste
what's the figure
sites.
again? Sorry, I went over.
55 billion.
$55 billion?
Dollars are locked up in e-waste sites around the world, just sitting there.
Right.
So if we talk about people going and mining Bitcoin to make money, I think they should be going mining e-waste sites and getting these metals out.
Someone's going to,
Yeah,
aren't they?
exactly. You would think so. I think it's expensive and not easy to get this stuff out.
Okay.
But all of these precious metals are locked up in these landfill sites.
And when you say landfill, I mean, is this stuff actually buried underground, or is it still accessible to people so that they might start recovering the materials?
In some cases, yeah. I think there's landfill sites around the world. We've used an example of Agbogbloshki, which is a well-known e-waste site.
That's the one on the screen.
Yeah, and we visited there recently, and you can see some footage
And
there.
where is that?
It's in Ghana.
Ghana.
Agbogbloshki.
And is it the case that we ship e-waste all the way to Ghana?
In the case of Agbogbloshki, most of the e-waste that's ending up there, as well as other things, is actually coming from mainland Africa.
Right.
It's based on an example of e-waste ending up, and you've got communities there that are actually...
Oh my goodness, look, here we
It's
are.
got a real spirit of entrepreneurialism, and there's people actually making money by harvesting metals, minerals, all the things they can get out.
Yeah.
Often, as you can see there, by burning off the plastic so that the metal remains.
Yeah.
What we're kind of saying here, we're not trying to sensationalise that place or any other, and we're not trying to say it's bad, but if we can try and help the people there that are harvesting the metals and give them an income
Yeah.
and do it in a safe way
Yeah.
that protects them and the environment, then that would be great.
Okay, do we know what happens to the UK's e-waste?
It's quite interesting actually. We're actually looking into this at the moment. We are going to do a campaign about this topic.
Right.
So all of our Lush stores worldwide and our digital platforms, we're going to take this message you've seen here to our audiences and talk about e-waste in retail.
Wouldn't it make sense if there was a central e-waste dump above ground, not buried, in the UK, where this material was made accessible to people who wanted to recover some of that 55 billion?
Yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think companies are doing various things. They're sending it to landfill illegally, or they're saying they're going to recycle and harvest the metals out, but they're actually not doing that. I think you've got a mixed story out there about what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I think what we'd love to do is throw away some e-waste and put some trackers on there and actually see where they end up, because I think that'd be quite an interesting story to tell.
I'm up for that, yeah.
Yes.
Well, we track our golden eagles all around Scotland.
Yeah, there you go, it's the same sort
with
of
the
thing.
help of Lush.
Yeah.
So maybe we just loan you one of our satellite trackers
Yeah.
and you can stick it in the back of a TV.
And I think we'll just see where they say it's going to go and where it actually goes. Might be a different story.
That'd be a good story.
It would be a good story.
Okay,
yes.
let's
Yep.
move on then, because basically there are solutions, obviously.
There is.
And as much as we bemoan the situation when it comes to disasters like that,
Yep.
what can be done?
So yeah, there actually are reasons to be cheerful. So we've shown the mobile phone shop, we've shown the sales end of it, we've shown the dystopian e-waste site and how terrible that can be.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to show here is some solutions. So we've invited a few of our friends and suppliers along to talk about that.
Okay.
And these are the kind of people we'd like to be funding when we do a campaign later this year.
Okay.
So
Good morning. Good
if I
morning.
can introduce Hugo from the Restart Project. The Restart Project are doing a lot of things in the world of making electronics, like you spoke about, repairable again, and teaching people how to actually do that. So Hugo, perhaps you'd like to tell us about your...
So how can we do it then? You know, I've got a phone, look, here's mine. It's fully functional. I've had it for longer than the 18 months, which is the average.
Well done.
And I'm mean, so I hang on to them until the bitter end. Normally, when the battery fails, to be quite honest with you, why can't we easily replace our batteries? You know, why are we tempted to buy a new phone just because the battery's gone down?
Well, manufacturers design these products so that they're easy for them to assemble, not easy for us to disassemble so that we can extend their life for another
Physically,
2.
you can't get into them.
But we can. And so we are told that we can't, that it's not safe. And of course you need to do it safely because batteries could be punctured and explode. But it's totally possible to do it safely. And the Restart Project supports and inspires people all over the world to run community repair events where people can learn how to take apart phones, but all kinds of other products as well, and learn how we can take back control, which is a very fancy sentence that people talk about now, and give an extra lease of life to all kinds of products. The important thing is that we don't just do hands-on activities, but we collect data about the barriers that people face, and we use it to make the case for our right to repair, which means to bring about change in legislation, especially at European level, which could bring repair back and force manufacturers to put on the market products with extended support, longer support for batteries and other spare parts, so that we can repair. But there is a massive pushback by governments and obviously the lobbies of manufacturers that are trying to block Brussels and the European Commission from going ahead and changing this. And so at a time when everyone is shouting about planned obsolescence and we get all upset, we need to get a stronger joint voice that brings together the ethos of community repair and pushes for massive system change in terms of legislations and forcing manufacturers to act in the interest of citizens.
One thing you said there I really like is the right to repair. The right to repair. Surely that's a mantra for a movement, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Really? And these gentlemen here, they're in the process of disassembling and repairing. I mean, and surely this is something that we could, learn to do ourselves. I mean, a lot of people are quite intimidated by this sort of technology, and the idea of sort of sticking your thumb and a screwdriver into the back of your mobile phone, it might terrify them. But clearly, it can be done. It's being done on this table.
You can do it. Today and yesterday we're running a pop-up restart party where participants bring their old tech, or perhaps sometimes it's not even old, and they're empowered. Because the first time you do it, it is a little bit frightening, but you do it with a friendly support from one of our repair coaches, our restarters, as we call them. And the next time you will be empowered to perhaps share that skill with another person and spread the word. It's so empowering. People find the joy in the tech that normally is cold and black boxes that normally we're told that we can't touch, we can't take apart. And there's joy that we can have in turning them in products that last twice as long or more.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And the right of repair, this whole thing is going to be a part of another Lush campaign coming up this autumn, hopefully.
I reckon this winter, absolutely.
This winter?
In stores worldwide.
Okay, Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Again, a real eye-opener here from the Lush showcase. You've got to take back control. You've got to exercise your right of repair. There's my poodle, look, it's on my phone.